This is the Death Row and Executions channel. Here is your host, Paco Rivera.
Welcome back to the Death Row and Executions channel. I am Paco Rivera. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more Death Row news. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. Ruben Gutierrez was born in 1977. He is originally from Lee County, Florida, in the region where Fort Myers is located. Gutierrez dropped out of school in the 8th grade. He's now 47 years old and has been on death row 22 years for a crime he committed when he was 21 years old. Escolastica Cuellar Harrison was an 85-year-old Hispanic woman, a widow, who owned a mobile home park in Brownsville, Texas. She lived in a house in the mobile home park. Some reports state that her home was also a mobile home, a trailer home. But after looking at this picture, that doesn't appear to be the case. It looks more like a house than a mobile home. Escolastica had been described as a very kind and generous person. Her home was also her office for the mobile home park business. And while Escolastica appeared to be running a successful business, there was a problem that had apparently become known to just a few others in her inner circle. Escolastica did not trust banks. So, all the rental money that she collected from residents of mobile homes in the park that she operated, all that money was kept in her home. It was learned during the investigation of her murder, which we will get to in a moment, that Escolastica had about $600,000 in cash stashed away in briefcases in the home. Escolastica had a nephew named Abel Cuellar. And before I begin discussing this tragic case, I want to make it clear that Abel was in no way involved in the planning or commission of the crime. Abel was living with his aunt Escolastica, and he had a friend named Ruben Gutierrez, who was also friends with Alex's aunt Escolastica. Abel Cuellar and Ruben Gutierrez, along with some other friends, often hung out behind Escolastica's house to drink beer and talk. And over time, Ruben Gutierrez would learn that Escolastica kept a large sum of money in her home. On September 5th, 1998, 3 men entered the home of Escolastica Cuellar Harrison. She was beaten severely and stabbed 13 times with a screwdriver, mostly in the neck. A medical examiner would later say that it was obvious that Escolastica had put up a struggle and fight against her attackers. The 3 men then grabbed approximately $56,000 from a safe and fled the scene. Either the men did not know there was about $600,000 in the house later found by investigators, or they couldn't find it, or they panicked and fled without looking for it. It was Escolastica's nephew, Abel Cuellar, who arrived home at about 1 o'clock in the morning and found his aunt dead. Because Ruben Gutierrez was known to be closely affiliated with Escolastica and her nephew Abel, and had even run errands for Escolastica, he was questioned by investigators. One of the first things, of course, that detectives want to know is, where were you when this crime took place? Well, Gutierrez first told detectives that he was not involved in any way with Escolastica's murder and provided an alibi of where he was. That alibi was checked, and it turned out to be a lie. After the alibi failed, Gutierrez told the detectives that, yes, he had planned to rob Escolastica of her money, but that he had waited in a park nearby while Rene Garcia and Pedro Garza went to Escolastica's home to rob her. He said he didn't know that they were going to kill her. 4 witnesses placed Ruben Gutierrez at the mobile home park that day. 4 witnesses. So when the park alibi failed, Gutierrez stated, "Okay, I lied about waiting in a park." And he said that he had, in fact, been inside Escolastica's home on the day of her murder, but that it was the other two men that did the actual killing. And now, while on death row, if I'm not mistaken, Gutierrez has gone back to saying that he was never there, as a way to avoid execution. Because, you see, Texas doesn't care who actually stabbed Escolastica with a screwdriver 13 times and bashed her head open with blunt force. All three men who were there inside Escolastica's home while she was being robbed and killed are equally responsible for the crime. So Rene Garcia and Pedro Garza were also picked up because it was learned that they were with Gutierrez on the day of the crime. While being held, someone was able to post bond for Pedro Garza, maybe with the stolen money, and Pedro Garza then vanished into the wind, becoming one of the state's wanted fugitives. That crime happened 25 years ago, and Garza is still wanted to this day. It is believed that he fled back to Mexico, his home country. During searches of the properties of the three men, $21,000 in cash was recovered and jewelry belonging to Escolastica Cuellar Harrison. Rene Garcia, when questioned, gave a full confession. He later pleaded guilty and was given a life sentence. Ruben Gutierrez, however, insisted that he was innocent of the crime and went on trial for murder. He was found guilty and was sentenced to death. Ruben Gutierrez had been scheduled for execution in the past on 3 separate occasions. During one of them, his execution was halted by the United States Supreme Court just minutes prior to the execution because Texas had refused to allow Gutierrez to have a spiritual advisor present during the execution, and the United States Supreme Court decided that should be looked into further and blocked the execution. I believe COVID caused the stay of another execution date. Now, Texas is allowing a spiritual advisor present during the procedure of executions. So, Ruben Gutierrez and his defense team are requesting that the state test if Gutierrez's DNA will link him to the crime. Gutierrez and his defense say that they won't find any, therefore, he wasn't there and didn't commit the crime. Authorities in Texas are saying that this is just another delay tactic to stall the execution. There are people out there that have gotten it in their minds that if a perpetrator's DNA is not found at a crime scene, then he didn't do it. Not every capital murder case is a DNA case. During initial questioning, Gutierrez placed himself at the scene of the crime by saying that he was there, but that he wasn't the killer and that he didn't know his accomplices were going to kill the woman. And his good friend and accomplice, Rene Garcia, who has confessed, also places him inside of Escolastica's house. Rene Garcia also said that Gutierrez is the one who had planned the whole thing, the mastermind, and that it was actually Gutierrez who used a screwdriver to kill Escolastica. As I said, Pedro Garza was released from jail on bond, and it is believed that he fled the country. He has been wanted for over 20 years. And Rene Garcia is serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole for the murder of Escolastica Cuellar Harrison. Please remember to subscribe for more death row and upcoming execution stories. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. I am Paco Rivera. Take care and bye for now.